All right, everybody, thank you so much for having us here tonight. As Pastor Tom said, my name is Erica Senseneg, and I am from Northstar Initiative. I'm the administrative assistant at Northstar Initiative, and I'm so excited to be here tonight to share with you about what we do and how we help survivors of sex trafficking. So the first part of the presentation is going to be a little tough. There's going to be a lot of statistics, talking a lot about what trafficking is and why it's so prevalent in the U.S. So just, listen with caution. So, to get started, we're going to talk about what human trafficking is. So, human trafficking is a criminal act. It is the recruiting, harboring, transporting, providing, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a person. How this is done is through the use of force, fraud, and coercion, which is better known as beatings, lies, and threats. Why trafficking happens is for subjection to involuntary servitude, peonage, debt bondage, commercial sex acts, and/or slavery. Sorry, struggling a little bit here. Oh, got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. So the perpetrator bonding tactics are, like I had described, the force, fraud, and coercion. The force is the idea of the beating, torture, rape, branding, confinement, captivity, and starvation of the victims. The fraud is the deceptive offer of employment, education, romance, marriage, the boyfriending, the promises of a better life. The coercion aspect is the threat towards the victim, their family, their livelihood, the psychological manipulation, and the threatened use of the legal system. This is also seen in isolation, when the pimps learn the victim's weaknesses, and it's also when the pimp takes away any identification of the victim. So that includes the driver's license, social security, and birth certificate. And we have a lot of survivors that come to us with none of those identifications, and we have to help them get those. So there are 40.3 million victims of human trafficking globally. It is the fastest growing illegal global business. It generates $150 billion a year. And it is the second largest criminal industry in the world, right behind drug trafficking. And for every one case of trafficking, 3 or more are already associated, so we celebrate when a trafficking ring gets taken down, but we also mourn with those who are still trapped in trafficking, and we know that there are already 3 or more cases already associated with that. So this is a map from the Polaris Project from 2019 of the locations of trafficking in the United States. So if you take a look at PA and especially Lancaster County, you can see that we are a major hotspot. This is a quote we like to say at Northstar Initiative: "If the person can't walk away without fear or harm, it is considered trafficking." That's from Mira Sorvino, the UN Ambassador on Human Trafficking in 2013. So more specifically, we're going to talk about what sex trafficking is. Sex trafficking is the buying and selling of men, women, and children to perform sexual acts against their will. They're held captive by an owner who uses their body as a money-making object. Sex trafficking includes things like child pornography, child exploitation and prostitution, pimp-controlled prostitution, sex tourism, and familial trafficking. We see traffickers often grooming their victims for the purpose of sex trafficking by building a relationship and sense of trust through the process of manipulation. Some traffickers enforce quotas or performance incentives, and if not met, the victim will be sent back out to the street to keep working or physically abused. And we also want to touch on familial trafficking specifically. This is exactly what it sounds like when family members actually sell their own children. And at Northstar, this is how quite a few of our survivor stories actually began. At Northstar Initiative, 40% of our survivors have been trafficked by a family member. Alrighty, so next we're going to talk about pornography. So pornography is the demand, and sex trafficking victims are the supply. So the porn consumption can breed a sense of sexual entitlement, and it is linked to abuse on set, child exploitation, and human trafficking. It has a physiological and psychological impact because our brains bond us to the pornographic images we see on a screen, similar to what drugs do. A very sad statistic is that 1 in 5 children will be sexually solicited before the age of 18 in the United States. And another sad statistic is that internationally, every 30 seconds, a child is either stolen for sex, slave labor, or organ harvesting. Every 30 seconds. So we get a question a lot of times that asks, why don't trafficking victims just run away? Why don't they just leave their situation? 89% of women in the sex industry said they wanted to escape, but had no other means for survival. 90% of victims are under the control of a trafficker, and we see this in the way of the mental enslavement because it is a cost-effective, low-risk approach that doesn't attract unwanted attention from law enforcement. So this is the manipulation aspect, the coercion. That's why they can't leave, because it's such a mental game. So the effects of trafficking are a deep sense of guilt, shame, and hopelessness. And this is why trauma therapy and trauma-informed staff at Northstar Initiative is so important, and why we train our staff every month and keep updated with the trauma therapy, because it is super hard to work with trauma victims, especially with this kind of trauma. Another statistic is that the average life expectancy of a trafficked victim is only 7 years. 1 in 4 victims are under the age of 18. And what makes one vulnerable? So the things that make an individual vulnerable for trafficking are recent migration or relocation, substance use, mental health risks, the foster care system, runaways, homelessness, histories of abuse, and those in the LGBTQ community. We actually, as these are the most targeted victims, we actually do see a lot of young girls that grew up in Christian homes, had a great upbringing, actually got boyfriended and became a victim of trafficking. We have a survivor that was her story. And 13 is the average age of a child exploited through prostitution. So with that being said, we also want to make a point about the impacts of social media, and parents to be sure you're checking your children's social media on a regular basis, because that is a huge form of where trafficking happens, especially in this day and age. So where does trafficking exist exactly? It exists within fake massage parlors, escort services, residential brothels, public city streets, in truck stops, strip clubs, hotels, motels, and especially online in pay-to-view webcam shows. So next we're going to be talking about the buyers, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with the buyers, but if you want to know more about who exactly statistically the buyers are, you can come talk to us at the end. So why Pennsylvania? We are a pass-through state as well as a destination location because of the tourism. Our proximity to metropolitan areas and interstate highways make it easier for traffickers to move victims without being noticed. We are closely related to New Jersey, New York, Baltimore, and DC, and because of this, like I said, it makes it really easy for traffickers to just hop on and off those highways without being noticed. So what are the signs of a trafficked victim? They are easily startled or afraid, unsure where they're located. There's no official ID. They're unable to explain injuries or possessions. They may have strange markings, tattoos. A lot of times we see the traffickers actually brand their victims so they know which pimp they belong to. There's unexplained hotel use. They're accompanied by a strange companion. A lot of times young girls are accompanied by way older gentlemen. And children are usually dressed to look older than they are. Again, a lot of times we see, especially in the winter, a girl will be wearing a really short dress and without a coat, and just be not dressed appropriately for the weather. So this is a quote by Detective Chris Jones of the East Lampeter Township Police. He said, "I believe the harbor will have the potential to impact the recidivism rates of sex trafficked offenders, victims, and provide a service outside of the criminal justice system." So now we're going to be talking about who Northstar is. So Northstar Initiative is Lancaster County's first nonprofit restoration home for survivors of sex trafficking. At Northstar, we see Jesus as our fixed point, the North Star, and guiding light to freedom. We believe that full restoration can only be found in Him and what Jesus did on the cross, not only for the victim of sex trafficking, but for every single one of us. Jesus is about restoring the life of the one. Therefore, we believe that the life of each survivor is sacred and full of infinite value. We believe there is redemptive power in restoring a life. So as I said, Northstar Initiative operates the Harbor, which is Lancaster County's first 501c3 restoration home for survivors of sex trafficking. We take in adult women ages 18 to 35. Our mission is to support women who are survivors of domestic sex trafficking by providing physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual care, all through a Christ-centered focus. Our mission verse is Isaiah 58:12. Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets and dwellings. Our mission verse explains what Northstar is devoted to do: rebuilding, raising up, repairing, and restoring the lives of those who have been destroyed by the devastating effects of trafficking. Our vision is restoring women from trafficking for freedom, for life, forever. And next is going to be a video, our promo video of what Northstar Initiative is.
Northstar Initiative supports women who have survived domestic sex trafficking by providing physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual care, all through a Christ-centered focus.
All too often, rescue does not mean freedom.
Those who are rescued often end up at homeless shelters or domestic violence programs, which do not address the unique needs of sex trafficking survivors.
These shelters are temporary, which often results in survivors going back to the streets.
Northstar Initiative is on a mission to change that.
Your love is proud to be seen with me.
Northstar has definitely taught me unconditional love.
To be seen with me.
Our staff and volunteers teach residents the skills needed for safe, healthy, and independent living.
I have time to heal. We are advocates,
Innovators,
servants, and prayer warriors.
we invite you to help us restore women from sex trafficking.
Every donation empowers her to pursue her hopes and dreams by providing the support and care that she needs.
The enemy wants us to think that we're not worth anything, which is not true.
we believe that the love of Christ, His forgiveness, and His faithfulness make restoration possible.
We believe that the support, love, and care that she receives here will carry her through tomorrow.
And we believe that every one of us can make a difference in the lives of sex trafficking survivors today.
There are people who want to help and don't want anything in return.
Sisters, we can start again. Give honor till the end. Love, we can start again.
He is there all the time.
We can start again.
God really does work miracles.
We can start again.
Join us in the fight to restore survivors for freedom,
For life,
Forever.
Okay, so next we are going to be talking about how the survivors get to the harbor. So the survivors come to the harbor through 4 main outlets. It says it's on. Yeah. You got me? Okay, cool. Okay, so the survivors, how do they get to the harbor? Through 4 main outlets. They can apply, self-refer through the Northstar Initiative website. Survivors' friends and family can apply for them if they feel that the harbor is the right fit. We're also part of the National Trafficking Sheltered Alliance. The Alliance offers a 2-page application that any agency around the nation can complete, and then is submitted to the Alliance, who then sends it out to all of its members. We are partnered with state and local agencies, and we also work super closely with law enforcement. So at Northstar Initiative, we create clear exit paths for survivors of sex trafficking to be able to live independent lives. We provide a 12-week core curriculum, intensive programming, and we provide them therapy as well. That is designed to work through their trauma and any drug or alcohol addictions. We provide animal therapy, we provide individual therapy, and we also provide group therapy. After the curriculum, the services are provided to meet the individual needs of the survivor. So we can help them with their education if they need their GED. We also offer college classes, and we also help them get a job. So what do survivors need to start a new life? Survivors need Bible studies, clean criminal records, driver's licenses, 24/7 care, identification, physical evaluations, medical assistance, life skills, job training, fitness and nutrition classes, basically everything to get back on their feet and actually start a new life and not go back to the life of trafficking. So this is a quote we also like to say at the harbor. One thing women need to successfully exit is time. You can't just find a place to live, get a new job, get clean and sober, go to school, and get treatment for PTSD all at once. You need time and a place where you don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep and eat to get to a healthier place. And that was from Robin, the survivor leader and case manager of the NOVA Foundation. So participants of the Harbor Restoration Program, as I had said, are assessed upon admission to determine the length of the program needed to fit their unique set of circumstances. The program may last anywhere from 3 months to 18 months. Survivors will work closely with the case management team to determine their goals and make clear paths to attain them, and they will be required to meet weekly and discuss their goals as needed. So we really tailor all of our programming needs to meet each individual survivor and whatever they need to get to the place, a healthy place to have a new life. And next is going to be our survivor video that we actually created this year that just shows you what Northstar provides for each survivor.
My life before I was trafficked, I guess would say ideal.
We were a pretty tight-knit family. My dad was a good dad, worked hard. My mom was a stay-at-home mom.
My mom and I had a trying relationship, but overall I knew that she loved me. My parents fought all day, every day. I felt safe for the most part until my stepdad came into the picture. When my mom wasn't around, he would touch me and say if I told my mom that he would hurt her.
I went to school one day with bruises, and my teacher asked me what was going on, and that's how I ended up in foster care.
My relationship was very abusive, verbally, and then sometimes it got physical. So life was good until it wasn't. Grooming was kind of like just somebody to show me attention, affection,
manipulation, coercion, drug facilitating. But at first he did everything to seemingly be like the perfect kind of partner.
It was a lot of little things that I don't even remember now that made me feel icky. Told me personal stuff about cheating on his wife, kicked my butt with his foot. So, well, it wasn't his hand, so was that okay? I was about 15 years old when I started being trafficked. I met this guy on Facebook, and finally one day we met up and we started dating.
A friend introduced me to a friend of hers. Hey, we can make money. He's got drugs.
I was 15, almost 16. He met me at a public pool.
I knew something was going on. I didn't realize I was being trafficked until it was too late.
He asked me to sneak out and meet him at night. I didn't realize what could happen. Totally sheltered, living in a little private school church bubble.
It was a girl. She kind of was like, don't you know what guys do to pretty women like you? They get you on drugs, make sure you're addicted, drug you up, and pimp you out.
In the beginning, like when it started, it wasn't alcohol. It was like something in the water.
I found out about something that a lot of traffickers dose their victims with. So one day when he was asleep, I got into his phone, and there was a video he had of me of this other guy having sex with me while I was unconscious. I confronted him about it, and he said that if I try to leave, that something might accidentally happen to my dad.
I really didn't know how to get out safely. I fled to the police one time and got talked to very condescending, like they just really let me know that they weren't gonna do anything. It was very, very hopeless feeling. I got out by contacting someone I used to work for.
I got away from him because I got arrested.
Going to jail was a luxury. I knew I would have shelter. I knew I would have food.
He extracted me and put me in touch with Trafficking Hope, and they put me in touch with Northstar.
I chose Northstar because I've tried everything besides picking God and Jesus.
Northstar gave me hope.
Love, unconditional love.
Northstar has given me my life back.
Everyone here, it's nurturing me back to normalcy.
I am valuable.
I am loved.
I am seen. I am worth it.
I'm a child of God.
I am powerful.
I am free.
I am a survivor.
I'm a survivor. I am a survivor.
A video makes me emotional every time I watch it. So, we're going to go on to how you can help be a part of the solution for trafficking and how you can help Northstar Initiative as an organization. So you can be an ambassador. This includes attending local trafficking awareness events, hosting your own awareness event or fundraiser, and inviting us to come speak like I'm doing today. Creating awareness in your community of friends and family now that you're educated. Being an ambassador requires you to go out and educate your circle of friends and your family so that we can be aware of trafficking and the reality of it, especially here in Lancaster. And you can also follow us on social media and share our posts also to get the word out about trafficking. You can partner with us in prayer, which is something that we consider super valuable, the most valuable thing that you can possibly do to help us. It is a spiritual battle to work with trauma survivors. They bring in a lot of spiritual warfare stuff. A lot of them have had cult abuse and demonic oppression in their lives, and so prayer is super important to be able to break those chains. So we actually have a prayers and praises list on our website that's updated monthly. So you can find all of our current prayers and praises about those survivors, staff, volunteers, the mission of Northstar, our financial stability, everything on our website at northstarinitiative.org. You can also partner with us by volunteering. There's lots of ways you can get involved by volunteering. Yard work, organization, we have guest chefs coming in. Transportation is always a huge thing that we look for. You can lead a life skills class, helping at an event. There's also modeling opportunities, and those applications are on our website. So I'm actually going to have one of our volunteers is here with us tonight. Her name is Maddie Spidell, so we just want to give her a warm welcome. She's going to share a little bit of her experience at Northstar.
I don't have a microphone, so I'm going to try to project. Yeah, like she said, my name's Maddie. I've been a volunteer with Northstar for a little over a year now. When Erica asked if I could share a little something about my experience, I quickly realized how important almost all moments have been. Yeah.
Only because we're live streaming this, they won't pick up the voice.
Okay. Is there a way?
Josh up here? Yeah. We can hear you, but we won't be able to hear you.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, Selma.
If not, maybe I can use.
Yeah, you can just.
Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Let me grab mine, okay? They won't pick up. That'll work.
Yeah. All right, let's try this again. Yeah, like I said, my name's Maddie. I've been a volunteer with Northstar now for a little bit over a year. I think where I led off was describing how every opportunity and moment I have spent at Northstar so far has been a very important one. It comes down to the simplicity of things that to me feel very second nature, like dicing an onion, sauteing vegetables for dinner, being creative, and a survivor who might be spending time with me says, I've never done this before. Every opportunity has been a moment to learn, whether that's being an employee or a volunteer with Northstar, or for the survivor. One thing I can definitely share from my experience, when I first started, a survivor entered at the same time that I did. She's very funny, very witty, very loud, and I love to laugh and make very corny jokes. We bonded almost right away, and we were given many opportunities to spend time with each other. She shared multiple times how much she looked up to the older residents in the house when she entered. What she saw in them was independence, she saw leadership, and she saw what a true friend really meant and how to have healthy relationships. So fast forward to today, about a year later, she has been able to have a part-time job, save up money to buy her own car. And since accomplishing that milestone in her life, she has been able to start training for her career job, which she now has and which she will probably continue now for a very long time. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen since being a part of Northstar is how transformation happens, entering the home and being somebody who's there to heal and work on yourself, to being somebody who's a leader to new survivors who enter the Harper. A little emotional, like thinking about it, just because of how monumental it is, and I think this is a cycle that will continuously happen. When a new resident enters and looks up to an older resident, it's really cool. I think the biggest thing that I can share is that healing people heal people, not just survivors, but also everybody who is a part of Northstar. It's very monumental, and so if you've had anything on your heart about spending time, about giving, or praying, like she said, a very big thing for Northstar is receiving prayer. It is something that 100% is worth it because it affects every survivor that enters Northstar. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maddie, for sharing that. We love our volunteers, and Maddie's been a consistent volunteer for a year, and that has created so much stability for the girls because they look forward to seeing her, and yeah, they've bonded so much. So if you're considering being a volunteer, it's something that's super rewarding. And the last thing, obviously, is financial gifts. We really appreciate any amount of financial gifts that you can provide. We are all donor-based, so we get no support from the government whatsoever. So we rely on donors like yourselves to maintain the house. And now we are at max capacity, so we have 10 survivors in the house. So trauma therapy, equine therapy, all of those things add up pretty quickly. So in closing, I wanted to just reiterate that each survivor needs shelter, food, life skills training, identification, education, trauma therapy, and so much more. Northstar and the survivors rely on donors like you to provide the resources needed for them to live a life of wholeness and freedom. We desire each individual who steps foot into the Harbor program to be given an opportunity to learn about the love of Jesus and his redemption. Each life is full of worth and value in Christ Jesus. So thank you guys so much for having me here. I just want to say we do have a table in the back. We have lots of resources on signs of trafficking, survivor stories. We actually are also selling t-shirts, so that's why you can partner with us as well. All donations, everything goes right to the survivors. So yeah, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I hope you learned a lot, and yeah.
I just checked with Erica if she'd be open to questions and answers, and she is. So if you have questions, just say them. I'll repeat them so they get recorded, and then Erica can answer them. Bob.
The social media, people putting like pictures of their family on Facebook or whatever. What's your thoughts about that? Family members and maybe want to stalk them or, you know, I don't know.
So the question is, what are the dangers of social media, and how could people access that that would affect trafficking?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question.
No. Try now. Okay. No. Oh, okay. I'll turn on. I'm on.
Okay, that's a great question. Personally, I would say just be super careful, especially as technology advances. I mean, there's going to be an advancement of ways to be able to access families, and especially children. So I would just be super careful posting about your children, especially on a continual basis. Yeah.
If by nature it's forced, why would they return to it?
So we see a lot of times, even after girls go through part of the program, they go back to the life of trafficking. And that is because they have grown up in that and they literally don't know anything else. So there is lack of worth, there is lack of value. They don't know how else to make a living. They just don't know anything different than what they've grown up with. So as us looking in from outsiders, we're like, well, why would you go back if you see that there's more to offer? But that is something too, like I can't answer that because I mean, I've never been in the life, you know, so it's a lot of psychological manipulation. And as I had said before, it's a mental game. So it's really just a lot of chains that need to be broken, and soul ties to the trafficker. And a lot of times, I mean, these girls fall in love with their trafficker because even though it's beatings and rape and all of that, like they look at it like their trafficker is telling them that it's love, and that's all they know. So that's why a lot of times they'll just go back, because it's this really unhealthy bond. Does that answer your question? Okay.
She mentioned about children and organ harvesting. Can she talk about that a bit?
I am not super educated on the organ harvesting aspect. That is just a statistic we got off of, I think, the Polaris Project. But I mean, I know it happens. I know it's part of the black market. And it's happening today, just like trafficking is happening today. So, I mean, yeah, there is, I don't think we have any resources on organ harvesting specifically. But yeah.
Compared to female, what percentage would be male versus female? I don't mean in your program, just statistically.
who's getting trafficked, right? So males are a lot lower, but we do see a rise in the LGBTQ community as far as little boys that are getting trafficked. So the percentages, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm thinking it's like probably 70-30, 70 female, 30 boys. It's pretty high. I mean, it's not like it's just like, 10% of boys. No, it's like, yeah, it's pretty high.
A question? Yes. So the question is why? Hello? Why is it so difficult to close down massage parlors?
That is a great question. I mean, trafficking is such a huge problem, and the buyers are a lot of very wealthy, high-up officials. So, like government officials, police, businessmen, lawyers. So, I mean, it's part of our system, like it's, what I would say is it's because those are the individuals who are purchasing the victims. So that's why it's not being taken care of as it should be.
I wish we could say.
Yeah.
Is your group national, international, or?
The question is Northstar Initiative national and international?
Northstar Initiative just has one home based out of Lidditz. So we are just national. We don't, just domestic. We don't do any international individuals or survivors. But we have had a lot of survivors from other states.
Yeah, how many? Country? Is there any?
I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah.
Way in the back. Have you heard of any men who repent and get out of this?
As far as like those who have been the pimps, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head any like personal stories of individuals that I've encountered that have had that redemption. But I've definitely, like, if you see like movies and stuff like that, I mean, I forget the one movie off the top of my head, but anyway, there's definitely people who I think have gotten out of the life of being a pimp and are now advocating for survivors of trafficking and sharing their testimony. But like I said, I don't know any off the top of my head. But it's a lot with, like the demand is pornography. So we know that a lot of men, can come through that addiction and be redeemed from that. So I think that's part of it too. So I know there's a lot of, men who have been redeemed from pornography.
Yes. The question is, how do most women find their way to the house in the first place?
So as I had mentioned, there are a couple ways that they can come. I mean, circumstances really depend on, we don't take children, and we don't, it would have to be really special circumstance to take somebody who's pregnant. Because we don't have it set up to be able to have children in the home, because it is a program for women 18 to 35. So we're on the National Trafficking Sheltered Alliance referral page, and they can also be self-refer through our website, and then they would get a phone interview, and we would ask questions. We also don't do drug rehabilitation, so if they're addicted to drugs, we don't have the resources to be able to help them out of that. So it just really depends on the circumstances of the individual.
So the question is, if they're so locked into that house and under the control of them, how do you even get an opportunity to find out about it? place of restoration?
Yeah, so that's really tricky. I mean, if they have an opportunity to go on the internet at all, I mean, we're, with the social media that we have, we're still growing as an organization, so we're not like the first thing that comes up on Google, right? But I mean, there are, if you like type even the National Trafficking Hotline, I mean, there's a way to text, there's a way to call. So there are resources for somebody who really does want to get out of the life. However, we are like a program, so they have to actually be like, meet the requirements of our program to be able to participate. And they have to be willing to come. We don't just get people that are like off the streets, if that makes sense. Because yeah, it's, a program. They have to want to come and get the healing and have to be ready for that to be able to succeed in our program.
Something you said that I think surprising to all of us is that Lancaster would be a center for this. Is that pretty much known on a national level that Lancaster is a center?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did do, I don't know how many years ago this was, but I did, or what site, but I do remember seeing something about Lancaster being, or Harrisburg area being like the third top in the US as far as locations for trafficking. So I don't know if that's still updated as of 2020. But that was at one point one of the highest places for trafficking.
Yeah. Who started the organization? Is it a church organization, or
who started the organization, and is it affiliated with the church or any organization?
That is a great question. I actually should have touched on that in my presentation. So Jen Sensnig is our founder. She actually started the mission of Northstar in 2008. She actually was on Route 30, saw a massage parlor. She was really confused because she saw like a girl who looked super young in the window, putting on makeup, putting on clothes that were just really seductive, and she was very confused because this girl looked super young. So she went back a couple more times, kept watching this massage parlor right on Route 30 here in Lancaster, and just kind of kept going back. And then eventually she called the police, reported what she had found. The police went in and busted an entire trafficking ring. And that is how Northstar Initiative started back in 2008. And then we only officially opened our home in 2017. So this year is 3 years that we've been open.
And are you affiliated with any organization?
No, Northstar Initiative is its own organization. And we are not affiliated with any specific church.
I'm curious, you said that these girls dress in a certain way and are with older men. You being involved in Northstar, are you able to see girls and say, oh, I bet that's going on there? Does that happen?
Yeah. I think that all of us in Northstar Initiative are very aware of these kinds of situations, and a lot of us do carry, there's little cards that we have on our table actually that are just like little pocket cards, and they have the National Trafficking Hotline number. They have what to look for. So we all carry those too, because they're actually easy to just like slip to somebody if you feel like they're in the life and you want to provide them a way that they could get out. So yeah, I think that we're all very, very aware of these types of things. And I know my director, Janelle, actually has two daughters who are 22 and 19, and same thing. I mean, she's very aware of things like that and very aware of like her daughters who they're talking to, things like that. So because she's herself is educated enough to know what to look for.
I don't know how open Mike, but the one woman said about going to the police and not really being given any credibility. Do you find the police in the area really do listen to these girls when they come? I mean, now at this point?
Some. It really depends. The girl in the video that said that, her story is super sad because when she went for help, they didn't give her help. And they kind of laughed in her face, and she felt stupid and felt like she wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't actually happening. That's like the gaslighting aspect, because I said a lot of law enforcement are also involved. So, and also we see a lot of these girls who get arrested, the pimps will always put any charges or anything, like they'll put it all on the victim. So any drug charges or any weapon charges, whatever, will all go on the girl, and then the girl will get arrested and the pimp will get set free. And we're only now in our court systems here in Lancaster really learning about the reality that it's the pimp, not the victim, and the reality of trafficking, and that it's not the victim's fault. Yeah, there was actually just a case in last fall, actually, that Northstar was involved in. And I wasn't personally involved in it. My director could tell you more specifics, but Northstar was there to help a lot of these. I think there was 10 girls who testified against their trafficker. for a ring that was busted in Lancaster, actually, in the Marriott. I think it was the Marriott in Lancaster City.
So one pimp and 10 girls.
Oh, I don't know if it was one pimp. Yeah, I think there was a couple involved, but then there was like 10 girls who were testifying against him that were involved in that ring.
Have you ever seen a girl cycle all the way from where they were all the way to the program? Like receive a card. Oh, by receiving a card they show up. Okay, great.
Trying to be careful with what I'm saying. We did have a situation happen where we did receive a girl from a walk that we had put on, or that we were at, and she got referred by a family member. So that's all I can say. But so we have seen that happen. I mean, since we're still new, I'm hoping that we see more of that. But a lot of times they are out of state just because it's super uncomfortable for girls, especially too, that were trafficked in Lancaster, to be in a program in Lancaster because there's a lot of triggers. So yeah.
Yes, really.
What kind of impact do you see the decriminalization of sexual purchases or whatever having on trafficking?
Yeah. So there's a lot of decriminalization of sex-involved acts that used to be crimes, but now are not. And how does that impact this industry?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Do a lot of the girls find help because they get arrested and they're separated? So if they're not going to be arrested anymore, is that going to mean there's a decrease in their ability to find help? They're trying to decriminalize a lot of prostitution and that type of thing.
Yes.
They say it's a victimless crime.
Right.
So does that mean that these girls or even these guys are going to have a harder time being able to get separated even for that tiny amount of time that they can find help? Do a lot of people come through that? Like you said some officers help them find help. They get
Mm-hmm.
from their pen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a decent percentage, or will that not necessarily bring it back?
Yeah.
I think do you understand?
Sort of. I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand. So you're saying that with like the decriminalization of prostitution, will we see more officers helping the girls, or less officers helping the girls because it's not a crime? Okay. I'm not sure. I mean, it's super. That's kind of just becoming a thing where we're decriminalizing prostitution. So I'm not sure about how the law enforcement is going to react to that. I'm sure. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be good.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, if there's any way that they could have more help for like domestic violence, and it's all together with that. But if there's a way that you guys can have like more information about it, and like newspaper, like or another way of sharing it besides the internet.
So you're saying
Not a lot of people have access to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I come from my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that it'd be nice if there were more ways of getting this information out other than just the internet. Okay, that's a great point.
Like how to help those that are involved in trafficking. I mean, we do have some information on flyers and stuff in the back about Northstar, and we do have, like I said, we do have a brochure for National Trafficking Hotline, and we do have a little pocket card as well with the number and the number to text as well. So yeah, there is. I mean, and there's also things that you can print off of. I mean, if you don't have access to internet. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
So the question is Northstar able to advocate for women that are in prison with charges?
Yeah, so with the girls that we have at the house, we advocate for them. As far as with our charges and stuff, we actually have a 90-some% rate of charges being dropped with our survivors. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a huge blessing.
What's the branding look like? And with the soap ministry? Was that the question? Yeah. Soap, SOAP.
So the brandings can look, I mean, it's usually on the back of the neck, I think, or the lower back. I know it's definitely the back of the neck, and I think the other place is usually like the lower back, that they will be branded with the pimp's name, a name that maybe he wants them to call him. So I think, I don't know, I've seen some that are like something about God or like, yeah, yeah. I mean, they're not like normal tattoos. And then as far as the soap ministry, we are not connected with them.
This summer we were out west, and I was just like super shocked because in almost every bus stop we stopped at traveling, like probably at least 80% of them, like inside the bathroom door, had like hotline numbers for trafficking, and like you saw someone or were a victim of that. Is that like a government thing or a private organization who needs support who's putting that information out there? Like I've never seen so much of it. It's everywhere.
So the question is there's a prevalence of posters and flyers saying if you know someone being trafficked, call this number.
Yeah,
is
like
that
highway rest stops and restaurants.
Restaurants and highway rest stops? And the question is that a federal program or where do those calls go?
I mean, I'm assuming that's probably connected to the National Trafficking Hotline. I don't know if they're specifically the ones that put it up or not. But I mean, I know the National Trafficking Hotline is something that's super just readily available, and a lot of what people post just because that's like the first thing that they can call to get help, immediate help with their situation. I think that the reason that we're seeing it more prevalent is because there is more awareness of trafficking happening. Especially in the U.S. And I think that even in the last, I mean, even during quarantine, or yeah, like in March, April, May, those months, we saw the Wayfair scandal. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. But we saw things that just, like in the media, I mean, the media just kind of, you know, hit more on trafficking. I think it's just becoming this huge thing that people are actually talking about now and are not afraid to talk about and are realizing that it's a huge issue that's happening. So I think that's why too we're seeing more of that, specifically, especially in truck stops and places that it is likely to happen.
If they call that 800 number, what happens? I mean, do they act in that fast?
I've never personally called the number, but I mean, I know that they will help the situation and they will search local agencies to see if you can be fit with something. We've gotten referrals from them.
Yes.
That is correct.
You understand Northstar does not do any rescuing, and why not?
So Northstar is like I said, a voluntary program. So we are not set up to take in individuals right off the street. Since we are a program, it has to be the individual is willing to get help and change their life. So that is why, and we're still new. You know, maybe eventually Northstar can do something like that because I mean that that is our heart. We want to reach as many people as possible. But we are 3 years new, and right now it is just set up to be able to restore the life of the person who is willing to be restored, because you also can't help somebody who's not ready to be helped either.
So there are some places, some organizations that rescue people. Does Northstar ever get some of those people sent to them?
Yes, so we, like I said, we're connected with different agencies and even law enforcement. We work closely with them and everything like that. So if there is somebody who needs shelter, a place to stay, we do have them go through our application process and see if they are at the place where they are ready to be in our program. But yes, we do get some people who were rescued from other agencies.
The presentation differentiated
So what would be the difference in the care provided between a domestic violence center and Northstar?
So I'm not specifically familiar with domestic violence shelters and what they provide. At Northstar, we do provide, it's all a Christ-centered focus. So that's something that a lot of agencies don't have. And that is, I think, why, too, we've been able to reach max capacity in 3 years. I think the Lord just has really blessed Northstar as an organization because we continue to look to Him to direct us, to guide us in every step that we take. And we provide, job skills, and they're there for 6 to 18 months as well. I don't know the rates of domestic violence shelters and things like that, how long people can stay there. But we do provide, just job skill training, education. We allow them to complete their GED. We help them with college classes. We help them get cars, identification back. Just basically anything that they need to get out of the life of trafficking, we provide within that certain amount of time. And we do, if each case is tailored to the specific survivor, so if a survivor needs more time to heal, because there's no time limit on healing, they need more time to heal, they can stay until we allow them to transition to independent living, until they're ready to transition into independent living.
All right, let's thank Erica for a great presentation. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
I'm a much older man now, and so you appear much younger to me than you would have 30 years ago. But I'm glad you're involved in this, but it's sad that someone as young as you needs to be involved in this. It's a yucky business. You hear a lot of ugly stuff. And let's just pray for all the women that work there, that God would lift the defilement off of you, keep that off of you. And listen, as you leave tonight, there's an offering box. We encourage you, if God moves your heart to give to this ministry, it's certainly a worthy ministry. Let's pray. Father, I've often said it's so sad you created men to protect women. And instead, they are the number one abusers of women. And these men opposing themselves to be in love with these girls and then abusing them and using them for money, Lord, is just a travesty, such a betrayal of how you created men and women. So we thank you for this ministry. We pray you give them favor every place they turn, with the police, with government agencies, with funding, Lord. Just give them supernatural favor. There's no question your heart is behind this ministry. And we do pray, Lord, for the women that are involved in this ministry. I'm sure there really can't be men involved in this. These are women, and Lord, they're hearing a lot of really ugly stuff. And we just pray you just keep the defilement off of them. Lift that defilement off of them, Lord, that their spirits would not be weighted down by the stories they hear, by the things that they need to be a part of going through as these women go through them. Just keep them free from this, Father. So, Lord, bless this ministry, bless Erica, and bless all those that are a part of this. And we pray this in Christ's name. And all of God's people said, Amen. Thanks for coming out tonight. And again, thank you.